Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and Master Certified Life Coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, in today's episode, I'm going to share a personal story about my recent midlife vacation and the power of an intentional mindset. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle with over 1 million downloads and counting. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your Master Certified Coach and Midlife Mentor, and I am so glad to be here with you again. I really am. I really am. The topic I want to coach you on today is about something I didn't see coming, but wow, when it all happened, I couldn't miss it. I also couldn't avoid it. I couldn't not see it. And it all happened on a 52-foot catamaran in the waters of Antigua last week. If you're listening to this episode in real time, that is. Otherwise, it was November 2022. Yes, it was an amazing midlife vacation. And yes, there was some much needed mind management here and there about some unexpected incidents. But just quick before we dive into that, pun intended, we were on a sailing adventure after all. I want to make sure you know about the free download for you that's perfect if you want to dive a little deeper into the topic of how to reimagine yourself after 50. To find out more about how to get unstuck, imagine what's possible, and live your best life in the middle, head on over to www.susierosenstein.com/10 questions and get your copy right away. It'll come in your email and you will be all set. And one more thing, I also wanted to make sure you heard about the exciting new thing that will be coming soon. I've been posting about it on social media and hinting that something big is coming. It's new, it's exciting, and something specifically for midlife women entrepreneurs to share their message. So stay tuned. It's coming soon and you're gonna love it. Okay, here we go. So it all started with timeshare points. Are you familiar with the way timeshare points work? In very simple terms, you purchase vacation points and that gives you time on a vacation property. You share the property with other people who own the points. Our timeshare arrangement is on catamarans and we go on sailing trips. You get a captain, a first mate, and a private bedroom and bathroom. There are typically 6 to 8 other guests on the boat. Sometimes you know them because they're your friends or family, and sometimes you don't. At least you don't at the beginning, but you become fast friends as the week goes on. Anyway, early in the year, we realized we had some points that we had to use this calendar year or we would lose them. So we decided we had to go on a vacation. We started looking up what was available and settled on Antigua in the Caribbean in November, which was the tail end of their hurricane and rainy season. Now, I didn't think that was going to be a problem. I didn't know for sure. One time we did go on a sailing trip to the British Virgin Islands and we had 2 hurricanes in 1 week. But I just didn't think that was going to happen this time. We typically don't go on vacation this time of year though, so it did seem kind of weird and fun at the same time as we were leading up to it. The other thing was we had a direct flight, which just seemed over the top decadent. Most of the other sailing trips we have taken didn't have the luxury of a direct flight. Don't you love a direct flight? And many had those tiny planes that act like taxis between the islands. So I don't know. Some might find that really exciting. It is kind of exciting, but it's also, it's a little scary and it's more money, more time, all of it. But this one was direct. So away we went. Now, remember, I said that there were a few things that happened on this particular trip that needed some mind management. Well, that's because what I'm talking about never happened quite like this before. It seemed like thing after thing, little reminders that I wasn't getting any younger were pelting me head on from every direction, like when you're walking in a windy rainstorm trying to hold on to your Tilly hat that keeps blowing off your head and you're soaked. It just felt like, oh my gosh, things are coming at me from all directions. What's going on? How am I going to handle this? What kind of thoughts am I thinking? The other thing is, I'm pretty positive and have a great attitude and gratitude for the gift of aging. But after all, I'm only human. So anyway, We arrived a little late and we had to go on a quick Zodiac ride to the sailboat instead of getting on at the marina. No problem. The captain picked us up and taxied us over. I thought to myself, he looks pretty young. Then we get to the boat, we meet everyone, and when I meet the first mate, again, I think, she looks pretty young. And when I say young, what I'm really thinking is, they look about the age of my kids. And I'm like, oh, that's young. Or am I old? I don't know what's going on, but I'm still excited. You know, they were amazing, totally competent, and tons of fun. Nothing to worry about, but I did make that observation. So then you got to meet the guests, and this is fun. Typically on these trips, everybody is super cool, and it's a group of people, though, that you don't know. So I don't know how often you're in this situation where you're meeting a group of people that you're going to be getting to know quite well, and you don't know any of them. And it's interesting because just like your friends and family at home, there's a variety of things going on with people once you get to know them. So some just got a cancer diagnosis. Some are cancer survivors. Some of them have had major surgery. Some of them have just been through something amazing. Somebody's kids just left. Somebody's kids just moved home. Somebody is struggling with a bad knee or a bad back or a bad hip. Somebody's been taking care of their parents. And in this situation, it was pretty much the same. There was a little bit of everything. We were up to our ears in midlife scenarios. And my knee started really bothering me about the time I boarded the boat, on top of everything else. I was somebody with a thing myself. Now, as we got to know each other, I realized it was really pretty much a microcosm of my life at home. Not like other trips. Other trips wasn't exactly what was going on here. I sensed something different. The other thing was there were so many CPAPs. You know what a CPAP is? That sleeping breathing device that helps with snoring and breathing. A lot of little they come in like little suitcase looking things so you can see them all. There were many of them on this boat. And like I said, more significant things were going on with the people I was meeting too. There was a lot of life happening. Hard stuff, amazing stuff, exciting stuff, incredible resilience, and incredible courage. Lots of midlife career transitions too, into new jobs, new career paths, retirement, entrepreneurism, all kinds of things. And it all served as a reminder that when you've been around the block a few times with age, you accrue a lot of life experiences. There was no shortage of amazing stories and stories that were so easy to relate to. But one thing was different. This was our 6th such sailing trip in the Caribbean, and I'd never seen it before. All of this intense midlife stuff, it was the majority. The majority of experiences were midlife type experiences. The majority of us were in the same midlife age bracket. Most people had big midlife stuff. Now, I've never seen it quite like that before. On top of everything else, there were also some really bad reactions to bug bites fresh from the island. Sandflies or something, I don't know. It wasn't happening with me. But there were so many bug bites that people were dealing with. And you didn't have to be in midlife, I guess, to get these bites, but that's what was happening. And it was weird. They were intense. The reactions were huge and they were painful. So that was the meeting part, meeting all the guests. And then we get into starting the trip. So as usual, we reviewed lots of safety guidelines and we were reminded that we needed to be careful with the sun, drink enough water, and be careful moving around the boat. And we had specific instructions on how to do that safely. Again, nothing crazy. We all worry about this stuff on the regular. I've now had a daily moisturizer with sunscreen, SPF 30, for a few years. I love it. I'm really working on drinking more water. And of course, preventing falls is something that's on all of our minds. It was certainly on my mind. In fact, I wiped out trying to put some garbage in the outdoor garbage can just before the vacation. So, fall prevention is a thing. Well, on the boat, as you can imagine, it's a little trickier. You really have to hold on to something as you're moving about. Like the boat is moving and sometimes it's wet And, not everything is really wide or really flat. So there's some things you have to take into consideration. You have to be super careful. And even while I was being super careful, and so were the other guests, 2 of us wiped out, and a total wipeout. And I was one of those 2. It was wet because it was drizzling a bit, but I was walking so slowly and so carefully, holding on to my stuff, trying to balance my stuff. And boom, I just went down. And of course, I banged up the same knee that was causing me trouble earlier. And that's how it went. Most people had stuff, including my husband and me, the majority. When I think about it, we were in our early 50s when we took our first charter, and now we're almost 10 years older. So, like usual, it's pretty much a midlife scene with charter guests on this type of trip. Like I said, the majority. Now, don't get me wrong. It was totally an amazing trip. Food, folks, and fun were all in good supply. The scenery, the rainbows, the temperature, the comfort of the beds, the food, all of it. And the mood was amazing. Even with the bug bites, even with the wipeouts, we were all determined to have a great time, to get to know each other, to make it memorable. Now, I don't remember all of this midlife stuff going on in past charters like it was in this charter. Was it because I'm older? Am I just noticing it more now? Am I more sensitive about it now? I'm really not sure, but this was definitely different. I wonder about your experiences too. Now that you're a woman in the middle, what are you noticing more? Do you feel more alone, or do you feel more connected to other women your age? Are you listening more for connection with those midlife gals as they share things that are related to your age and stage as well? I don't know, but here is one thing that really stood out to me. And I want to emphasize the one thing that I noticed that really illustrates the power of your mind. We were all determined to have a good time. That's it. There was no question, even with all the physical ailments that I'd heard about happening and were happening on the boat, the recoveries, the ailments, the sandflies, the wipeouts, there was still absolutely no question that we were going to have a good time. We had decided this in advance. It was as good as done. And that, my friend, starts with a thought, an optional way to think, a sentence you think about in your mind. It's a sentence. That's it. And you can do that anytime. Remember how this mindfulness stuff works. We talk about it all the time in the podcast. You learn how to separate yourself from your thoughts. You appreciate that you're not your thoughts, but instead you can become a watcher of your thoughts, that you can choose your thoughts on purpose, that your thoughts create your feelings or your emotional state, and how you feel leads directly to how you act. That is what you do and what you don't do. And that's what makes up your experience. It all leads back to that original way of thinking. Now, in the example that I'm giving you about the boat, I don't know this for sure, like I didn't ask each of the guests, but it absolutely seemed like we were all thinking something similar. Something like one of these thoughts maybe. I'm going to have a blast on my vacation. I'm going to enjoy my time here no matter what. I'm open to connecting to new people. Something like that, right? These kinds of thoughts. And one feeling for sure that was coming from this kind of thinking was determination. Now, I'll speak for myself, but I really do have a hunch. With me, there is no way I was going to be grouchy about my knee. I'm not so sure how I would have thought about my knee at home in the winter. Nothing stopped me. Now, I did on occasion ask my hubby to get this or that for me. Like if I was up on the fly bridge and I forgot my camera was downstairs in the room, or I left the sunscreen on the dining table on a different floor, I would ask him to go get it for me if I had just gotten settled. But in general, it didn't get in my way. It definitely hurt when I was using my flippers while snorkeling. And what I did not go snorkeling. I just kicked with one leg when I needed to give it a rest. I would put my leg up when I could. Like if I was sitting, I would turn slightly and prop my leg up, something like that. I was determined to have a good time. I was determined that this stupid little injury was not going to get in my way. And I wasn't the only one. Like, seriously, you should have seen those bug bites. I have never seen anything like it. It could absolutely get in your way if you let it. But we all seem to know at a deep level how committed we were to creating the experience we'd been dreaming about for ages while we waited for this trip to come around. So I think the thought work probably started in advance of the trip. I wasn't going to whine and complain. I was going to have a good time, period. And like I said, everybody seemed to be thinking the same thing about their own experience. No matter where they were in their experience, that was a midlife type of scenario, they were just going to have a good time, period. So just imagine this. What would it be like for you to harness this power so that it would be at the ready whenever you wanted to access it? That you could trust yourself to honor your commitment of determination. That you could just believe that you could create what it is that you wanted. It's that simple and that complex. But it really does come down to you making a commitment to yourself. And it all starts with an intentional thought. So I hope that this vacation example is the type of example that you can get your head around. I hope it makes sense to you in a way that you can easily apply it to your own life, because I can imagine you thinking that kind of way too. It's totally a skill that you can learn, and it's life-changing. I see it every day in the Women in the Middle Academy. I see it every day in my community. I really do. It's a shift that comes with practice. But you, my amazing friend, can also learn to think on purpose. You can learn how to make this shift. You can practice it. You can harness it. And you can learn to think on purpose. Okay, that is it for this episode. As you know, my focus as your midlife coach is to help you learn to think on purpose. I want to help you get unstuck and clear and excited about your life again. The path is to learn how to manage your mind. So ask yourself, are you ready to do this? Because if you are, I'm all in to help you do it. Seriously, if you're ready to change your life and learn the skills to unstick yourself, with some masterful coaching, a top-notch curriculum, an infusion of creativity, and a warm, fun, and awesome community of like-minded women, let's talk about it. I would love to be able to help you get unstuck and be happier and more fulfilled than ever before. Doesn't that sound good? I know it does. So go ahead and book your momentum call at www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com. I can't wait to see your name in my calendar. For show notes and links, head over to www.susierosenstein.com and click on the podcast tab and look for episode 280. Thanks so much for listening. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. I'm Susie Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you next week.